How's it going, Mike?
Good to see you, Frank. Welcome back to Perspective Shift.
Yeah.
Awesome. How are you this week?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
Yeah. What's new?
Oh, man. The seasons are changing. That's
Are
what's
they
new.
really changing?
Every single day.
Still 100 degrees out.
In Arizona, it's still 100 degrees, but this is our fall because we've dropped below 115.
But in spite of in light of this show, we're not going to complain about it because we're going to talk about the remaining, get into the states and not the worry about the circumstance situation that happens to us. And that's going to be,
I love it.
Well, that's pretty much always our theme. Like you and I have been doing this for over
4 years.
4 years now?
Yeah, over 4 years.
And it's probably been, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks since we kind of really cracked down on following these protocols.
Yep.
Yeah.
Specifically regarding the breath.
Yeah, breath, and obviously into falling into meditation. Because that's what breath work precedes meditation. A lot of times people have, like, tell me, I can't meditate. I'm like, well, you got to breathe first. I'm like, what do you mean? You have to do breath work. That's why pranayama, like all those yogas, are all the breathing techniques. And then when you get into this state, yes, exactly.
Which
so
is what
pretty
we'll be
much, what's the
diving
state
into
we're
today.
trying to get into? We're trying to get into a parasympathetic state where the body's nice and relaxed and calm, regardless of what's happening. Mm-hmm. And the more we practice it, the more life will be easier for you, right? Because successful people don't. Yeah, sometimes people get lucky breaks, right? I'm not going to say they don't, but truly successful people in life push through or get through what most people think are rough times. Mm-hmm. And why? Because they learned how to control their nervous system. So we have a vagus nerve that kind of controls our whole system. And when that's out of whack, our essential nervous system's out of whack, all of a sudden our breathing augments, our heart rate, everything starts to change. And we think it was the outside world that did it. So it's trying to get rid of that. If I get rid of that, I could go back to being calm. Because yesterday I was sitting on the beach and I was really calm, but now I have to go to work and deal with Sally. Mm-hmm. I don't even have a Sally I work with.
And I like that you bring that up because that's what we're doing on a daily basis, which is, hey, this outside world, I just need to fix these items in the outside world, then I'll find peace.
Yeah,
and we're literally running backwards. We've been taught backwards, rather than starting in a certain state and then going to experience or allowing that to guide the experience and allowing things to flow. We dive in and say, hey, fix this, and this, and then I can allow myself to relax, or then I can, feel this state. And I remember this on my own journey too. I remember very early on realizing that, like, I wasn't allowing myself to relax because I feel like I didn't deserve it yet. I hadn't, made enough money. I hadn't, done enough with my career. I, still don't have, the family with the kids, whatever that may be. I felt like I didn't deserve to relax.
Yeah, and even when you met these milestones, there was a moment when you actually did relax, because I think in the idea of wanting something to be a certain particular way, you cease to want anymore, and you naturally fall into this homeostasis. But life really isn't that way. Me and Mike aren't telling you not to have preferences, but we're going to show you how to loosen up on them, because really what you think is preferential has actually been told to you.
Yeah, there are ideas
and concepts that people told us this is how life should be, and if this works, like, again, yeah. If you prefer chocolate ice cream over vanilla, I'm sure you have your reasons.
Well, and this comes from what? This comes from our family members. It comes from our parents. It comes
everything.
from our church. It comes from our movies.
Yeah.
It comes from our media. Everything we're consuming is telling us a narrative, a story. Our parents, our culture, our religion. Again, this is who you are. These series of different, events, or these series of different rules, or these series of ideas, and then we're supposed to, defend that.
Yeah, because we think that's what it's supposed to be. Like, yeah, if I was born in a certain era, there's a preferential set of music I like, right? Because I grew up with it, and I think everyone else should like it, so I forced my son to listen to it. And whenever he confronts me, he says, yeah, I prefer that too, Dad.
I prefer that too.
And he does it on the heel of asking for some money. Actually,
I really love that, Dad.
Yeah. It's like, what do you want, son? Yeah.
But it's important to bring it back to the state, and that's what we wanted to focus this episode on. Let's really to talk about the importance and value behind your state of being, what that means, what the state is, as well as how that affects our day-to-day lives and how we experience them, or how we experience reality, I should say.
Yeah, and one of the things is like when you fall out of the state, because everyone knows what it feels like to feel good. Everyone does.
We've all been there.
When we're there, sometimes you notice, I feel good. How long will that last? So it's kind of when will the shoe drop type of thing. But when you recognize, so everyone knows what it feels like to feel good. They also know what it feels like not to feel good. So when you're not feeling good, notice what's happening in the body. What is happening to the body? All right? Notice your breath. Me and Mike and me talked this for a long time, but notice your breath is augmented to a point where it's not in this homeostasis setting. So you're probably breathing, let's say you have anxiety, you're breathing a lot, you're breathing really quick, your heart rate's up. So you're really
short breath, shallow.
Yeah, shallow breaths, but you're pulling in oxygen, but not really getting rid of the carbon dioxide. So you're not really breathing out. So you're not shrinking the heart, so to speak. So you become in a sympathetic nervous system. So notice how you're breathing. After you start to breathe in, you can actually start to relax your body. And notice that all of a sudden the situation that you thought put you over the top had no bearing on you anymore. Yeah, it has to be dealt with. We live in a world of functionality where we have to do things that we have to face. But it's very easy to face things when you're actually in more of a relaxed state than if you are panicking. If you're panicking, you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot rather than the target in which you deem to hit. So that's what we tell everyone out there, listen. And that's why when you actually start to feel bad, this is good, because now this is a moment of experimentation into your life. And it really does work, A
moment of opportunity.
It's a moment of opportunity to see if this really works. Because when you're feeling good, it's easy to meditate. I can meditate all day long. Well, actually, when I'm feeling good, I am meditating all day long. But when something pulls me out based off an old belief structure that's in my system still, my body still responds to things. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm not like, why does this bother me? I'm like, no, I stop breathing. And all of a sudden, calm myself down. And then I look at the situation. And then, from that place, the concept of, why is this even bothering me? This is an opportunity to gain more business or, if it's an issue with a person or a customer, whenever there's, something that happens with a customer, if I deal with it properly, it's actually, I'll win that customer over for life, where if everything went pretty good and okay and good, they might have never noticed. And so when things go wrong and then you respond and react, not react, but you respond to it quickly and you satisfy and do that, you literally have that person for life because you trust them.
That's a great point.
Well, I remember as a kid, okay, you're hanging out with your buddies, right? Okay, your friends. Why? Because they lived around the corner from my house. Mm-hmm. When they really became my friend is when I was I fell out of a tree and my foot got stuck. And the kid didn't run away. He ran up the tree and helped me out. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? That response right there is what gained him my friend for life, because he got me out of danger. He got me in a situation where before he was just someone to hang out with and talk to and climb the tree with. But now when I'm hanging upside down with my foot, he went up in the tree and he grabbed my hand and pulled me up to where we could release my foot. Mm-hmm. That, to me, that was my friend for life.
Yep.
Because he helped me in the situation. So not that he caused me to fall or get my foot stuck. That was on me. But he actually didn't run away. Some people would have. He actually stood back and never done this before, but he climbed up, got higher than me, grabbed my hand and pulled me up, and there it was. Mm-hmm. Without even having a moment like you see in a movie. It just instant. I'm like, okay, this guy's my friend without even saying it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced situations
Absolutely.
Where we can relate to that. In school, or somebody saved our butt, or they said something on our behalf,
mm-hmm.
or whatever. Everybody has a story they could tie to that.
Yeah. So how can we respond to life instead of running away from it, run towards it? And when we actually practice this, and that's why I always have people practice these type of breathing techniques in the morning. The reason being is, in the morning, there's very little coming at you. You've been sleeping for 8 hours, hopefully, mm-hmm. or, whatever your body needs. But you come up, so there's less resistance in the morning than there might be in the evening. All right? So when you start doing these practices, even like doing when everything is going well, because people tend not to do it when it's going well. I'm like, no, this is when you really want to break down and do it. So when things go rough, then your autonomic system is ready to actually do it. So practice it, and do it at that point. So when shit does hit the fan, no big deal.
I liked how you used the word augmented for breath, because along these last 8-9 weeks that we've been really focusing on the breath, that is something personally I've been noticing is in moments where I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling overwhelmed, usually with work or something like that, I catch myself, and it's almost like I've got like a weight on my chest, and it's shallow, tight breathing, and I'm like, oh shit, and I notice that, and then I start to take a few deep breaths in and out, and I'm like, okay, and I kind of pull myself out of this funk. Well, pulling myself out of this funk, as we've been talking about, is just getting out of that sympathetic nervous system and into that parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
From a science, perspective. Notice this in your life when you're having an argument with your loved one, your kids, your partner, whatever, or you're having stress at work, or, you're in a situation with your boss. Really, really notice the breath and see how it changes. And in that moment, you're bringing awareness to the situation, and you will let go. You will begin to change the breathing because you notice it. You don't notice it at first because you're just so involved with reality, so involved with emotion, so involved with that situation that you get caught up in it. But as we begin to focus on it and we see how augmented our breath becomes, in that moment, it changes. And in that moment, you are now releasing, that energy. You're allowing it to dissipate. You're allowing it to move. The energy has to go somewhere. It's like the electrical in our house. It's a current, and that current has to run. And if it doesn't have room to ground out or whatever, it starts a fire and it overheats. That's exactly what we are, an energy current. And so that sense of awareness is what's going to allow you to interact with your reality on a level you've never interacted before. You're going to feel like you have more control in a situation. You're going to feel more options open up to you. You're going to notice that it's not the end of the world, because you kind of catch yourself.
Yeah, and it wasn't the argument that created the augmentative breathing. It was a situation happened that created your breathing to go out of whack, and you get into more of an anxiety state. That's what creates the argument, because you're not in the state where so, a lot of people are trying to okay, I don't want to, I'll notice a system, they'll just walk away. I'm like, well, that could be the same as arguing. Like, you're not dealing with the situation, you're running away. What's happening is there's something that happens outside of you that's linked into your system that says this shouldn't be happening. If this is happening, this is bad. And when the system deems something to be bad, all of a sudden your homeostasis goes out of whack. Your heart rate goes up. Your breathing is shallow. It's almost like you're being chased by a lion or something. Now, granted, it is nice that our body has this response, because if there is, again, I'm not in the situation where I'm going to be running from a lion because I live, in Arizona. And the closest I'll get to a lion is at a zoo.
I would say the Phoenix Zoo.
Yeah, but my point is if I'm walking across the street in a car, I notice somebody's looking down and they're swerving right towards me. Kicking into that sympathetic state is good for me to get the hell out of the way and respond. But once the car passes by, I know how to. My body's trained to get back down to parasympathetic and just walk away. So I'm glad that response is there. But we have things like you get a bill or somebody calls you and like, hey, I'm not going to make it into work today, and all of a sudden your sympathetic system kicks in, you start freaking out, and I'm like, why are you freaking out? Because, oh my God, there's all these problems. I'm like, no, it's a problem because you're in a sympathetic state. Your nervous system's all over the place. Your heart rate's up. But when you start to relax and breathe, all of a sudden it's like not a big deal. You'll handle it. This is all good. Everything's good. We can't control the outside world. So it's like if you wake up every day and say, this is my perfect day, this, and this. I'm like, I feel sorry for you. Like, my perfect day is a feeling, not a circumstance situation. Because if my perfect day consisted of this happening, then this happening, and this happening, I'm like, I'm going to be walking on eggshells throughout my day. Because, I get home and everyone's like, oh, it's all good. And then my wife is like, hey, we got a leak in the roof. I'm like, God damn it. Like, and that's the response I don't want to have, especially with my wife, because she never lets me get upset. She's like, you know what? I think you need to go in the other room and start breathing.
Yep. Let's figure
Along
it
those
out.
lines, yeah.
That's how it works.
She's like, go back outside, get back in your car.
Take a few minutes.
And think about what you just did. Like, I feel like a 3-year-old.
Come back in here and let's try this again.
Fortunately or unfortunately, my wife is a teacher. So she treats me like, when I act that way, she treats me like a student. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, how can we deal with that?
That's so funny.
Next time better. I'm like, maybe next time you don't say anything when I walk in the house. I don't know.
Well, also, too, like, let's look at the way we react and what we do unconsciously when we get into states that we deem non-preferential, a state that we don't like. What do we try to do? We try to change that state. We'll admit that might be through food. That might be through alcohol. That might be through drugs. That might be through sex. That might be, you know what I mean?
And they work temporarily.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, momentarily.
But like, what are we doing? Why are we chasing that dopamine hit? It's to change our state. Hey, I don't like this feeling. I'm feeling stressed. Oh, I need to go, drink.
Yeah. And what happens, why that actually works, is momentarily distract you from the thoughts that you had in your head that created the worry or the anger or whatever.
You're changing the state.
You change the state, but that doesn't go anywhere. It's actually just, all you do is take the problem and you moved it over here. So you moved it in front of you. So you keep walking. So you just moved the pothole you're getting ready to crawl into, right? So what we're saying is hit it head on. Like, do not avoid any of this stuff. So when a problem comes up, it's not a problem, but it's a change in your physiology based on something happened out of you. So now is a beautiful opportunity to say, why am I letting this bother me? All right? So all of a sudden, okay, first thing, go to the breath. Notice your breath. And we start breathing. Hey, this is like, we know this works because I don't think any court system allows, lie detector tests actually as testimony. The reason being is, if anyone knows anything about breath work, you can control your breathing. So I can control my vagus nerve by breathing in a certain way, by maintaining whether I'm lying or not. Like, my psyche knows I'm lying, but I can tell my heart to maintain a certain rhythm of breathing.
And people have learned, and you're right, they have learned
there's different techniques to do that. Like you were telling me about someone that would attack or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can keep your nervous system at the same, whether it's a lie or truth, based on what you know. So if I can control how I feel, I am then warded information to deal with whatever the situation is for me to accrue. And any time I've ever, like when my friend helped me out of a tree, we were like 10 years old when this happened, maybe a little bit younger. It was like the coolest thing. It was like we discovered safety, like we discovered rescue, I should say, where all of a sudden, right then and there, like, even though he's the one who did to me, if that ever happened to somebody, I can know I can go figure that out. And it just happened. And it was like, even though it seemed to be like I was hanging upside down for like maybe 2 seconds before I ran up the tree, it was like, I don't know how to my foot was wedged in that tree. This sucks, But once it happened, I'm like, it was actually cool that I fell or out of the tree, my foot got wedged, and he jumped up into the tree and pulled my hand without even thinking. It was like, in a weird way, I'm glad that happened to see that situation. So it was all good, Well,
and like you were telling me before we got in the air today, one of your family members reached out to you this weekend just kind of for chit chat, pep talk type of thing. In a way, you were helping him get out of that tree. Yeah,
and he was helping me too. I was just sitting around thinking, like, what am I going to do? And the phone rings, and I'm like, I picked it up, and he starts asking me about, he says he keeps falling out of these states. I'm like, yeah, it's no problem. It's not about falling out of state. It's how to get back into the state in which you want to, what you do best in. So it's knowing that you can get back in the state, not like, I think when early in my life where certain things would happen and I would jump into this beautiful state, and say I was driving in my car and a particular song came on, I'm like, oh, it's this song. I'm like, no, not really. It was a culmination of many things. Why? Because if I kept playing that song, I couldn't stay in that state. After the third time, the song, I'm like, I have to move on. So it was a culmination of different things. But it was like a mystery to me. Like, I'm in this beautiful state, and it's like nothing really happened, you know? I didn't win the lottery. I didn't do anything, you know, driving my car, and, you know, it was a beautiful day out, and this song came on and hit me, and hair stood up the back of my neck. We all know that feeling.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, if I'm like, I'm feeling bad, okay, put on, you know, whatever song that did. I'm like, the song could help augment that. It could help, you know, distract you from it, but it doesn't have the same zing that it had. What happened is my breathing was perfect in that day, and that song just amplified it. So what Mike and I are talking about is getting to this state, this baseline state, and then from there, these concepts that we've been talking about for the last 4 years, going into the creative expression, have a higher level of meaning, because I don't have to get to a certain place to then start it. We're actually starting from that place. We're starting from the positive energy field of expansion and then expanding it. So say I lay every day at a 200, or like my electromagnetic field is at 9, right? And 9 is a really good place, right? Mm-hmm. But then I want to expand it to like, you know, 30, all right? If it goes back down to 9, who cares? But if I'm at 2 and 4, and what I mean is we have this electromagnetic field around us. The average person, they say, has about, and I'm taking this from Randy Vettenheimer, who teaches this stuff. When you're at a 4 or lower, life is difficult.
And you're talking about your energy field, right?
Your energy field.
Yep.
So we have this torus field around us. It's created by electromagnetic field, and 4 feet is kind of like maybe the distance of my arms. I don't know how, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's not that far. We should be at about 9 or more, right? So if you're at a 4,
4 or less.
4 or less. You're literally in what we call the fight or flight survival mode, and life is just difficult. It's wearing, and because you're in that, it continues to shrink. All right. Now, if you learn to get it to where the 9 is the baseline, and then things happen, like, you know, someone notices you and you get excited, it expands out. But you realize that was just adding to it, or that song, any song that you like put on will actually expand. But if I'm at a 4, the song might not hit that place that I want it to. That's what's happening. So how do I maintain and control that field, the torus field, electromagnetic field around me, to stay roughly at around 7 to 9 feet? And then from there, these nuances expand it. And if something happens, it fluctuates in, go back to my breath, because that's what it's about. My breathing, my heart rate. When my heart rate is controlled, the electromagnetic field expands, and I give my energy, instead of, when I'm fight or flight, it's in the first 3 chakras, with first 3 energy centers. When I get it up to the heart, it naturally, it's like that tingly feeling that you feel, and nothing really happened. So when, you know, Manlio, my cousin, called, you know, I was just kind of in a blah state, and we started talking, and by the end of it, it's like, man, thanks for talking to me and this, and I realized, I'm like, Manlio, it was our conversation that distracted us from me being just kind of sitting here waiting for something, and you calling me and me picking up, and you talking to me. I'm like, we did this ourselves. The point I was trying to get across is, don't make it about calling me, because if you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning with something and you don't have access to get to like someone to talk to, you don't need to. It's the breathing. So when we were starting to talk, we started laughing. And when you're laughing, your heart rate changes, your breathing changes. All these things happen. And I'm like, how do you feel? I feel great. I'm like, yeah, well, there's a correlation with the conversation and the fact of distraction, and we took it to a higher level and know there's an outcome to this, and, you know, offering up certain things to do, knows as, okay, in the future I'll do these things. That permeated, and that was the correlation. But the causations are deeper than that. Yeah. And I don't want to ever hold anyone like, oh, if you want to feel good, you have to talk to this particular person. It's not how it works. You can do this on your own. Matter of fact, when
you have everything you need.
Yeah, when I'm actually dealing with people like either my coaching clients or my clients at my salon, I naturally get into a breath. I could get there like that now because I've been doing it for so long. I just do a natural breathing state, and I get in there, and then they come in, or I get on the phone with them, and I stay in this place where it's always poignant. We're laughing. We're doing this stuff. I don't let myself get there. And I had to learn to do that when I came home with my wife, too, because you tend to take these things for granted.
Or take them home with you.
I didn't even, what's funny is it's not like you took it home with me. What happened is, I've noticed this about myself and other people as I talk about them. When you're in the midst of like driving to somewhere, you're trying to get there, right? Trying to get home, all right? So instead of using that time to like just focus on, oh, look at the nice neighborhood I'm driving through, right? I'm like thinking of all the things I didn't think about today and going to the Rolodex. I'm like, oh, did I do this? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Tomorrow I'll do it. Shit. And I get home, I pull in the garage, and my wife's like, how's your day going? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Meanwhile, I had an amazing day, but because I was thinking, which we're not meant to think, we're meant to actually have a thought, either in the moment right now, respond to the thought, or take the thought and put it aside because you'll get it to later. Like I'll have a thought like, okay, I have to take my car into the shop today. Well, I can't do it right now because me and Mike are doing a podcast. So I take that and I put it aside, but I don't think about it. Should I have done it earlier? Oh man, if I take it there, what's going to happen? Also, when I start to think about the thought, also my body starts to take up all my glucose in my system, and I get physically tired. And now I'm like, oh my God.
This is why we're mentally exhausted.
Now I'm like, Mike, you got to take
day.
over the podcast.
But you know what I mean? Mental exhaustion,
yep.
Is something we're all experiencing on a daily basis, especially now with the way we consume, media from our phones.
Yeah.
Like we can get exhausted just from scrolling through TikTok and Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, you could also get energized by
comparing yourself.
Yeah, if you're watching TikTok and you're learning something, like if you're learning something within your craft or whatever it is, if it's a learning opportunity, you'll actually elevate up because you're at that place. But if you do it for too long, like in other words, when you learn something, you must then at some level, at some point, close to the moment of learning, enact it. Because if you don't learn it, it's conceptual. Mm-hmm. But so when a thought comes in, act on it as best you can in the moment. If you can't act on the thought, it's just something for the future. Put it in your pocket and it'll come back to you. But don't think about it. Because it's not.
We're not meant to think.
No. We're meant to respond to thought.
We've been taught that it's normal to toil and think, constantly in our heads and weigh situations and weigh options and all that. Are you not thinking? Yelled at us since we were children type of thing. And the best answer to that would be no, I'm not thinking.
Yeah, and the way to get out of thinking is through experiential practice. And what I mean is, when I was young playing sports, mainly the first one that ever came across me was boxing. I remember, my first memory is my dad holding his hands up, him grabbing my fists and twisting it, constant. Like, so I can't even not do that. It's like learning English language. It's something that you pick up, you're not taught. So I picked up boxing at a very young age. And all of a sudden, like when I would start to fight, like around 8 years old and up, I was starting to have I was sparring and having matches. My dad would seem like relaxed, stop thinking. Like I'm thinking, okay, if he throws a jab, I'm gonna slip and do that. I'm like, no. You can't anticipate someone throwing a jab because if they throw a right hand, you're in trouble. And how they're going to throw a jab, where's the jab coming? You can't. So what you have to do is go in the ring completely blank. Someone hits you in jab, you hit in the face. Okay, second time. The third time, you're going to naturally move. Okay. I know how to move now because I had been hit a couple times. And all of a sudden, this comes responsive, not thinking. So something comes in and my body knows how to respond. So throughout life, as we're doing these practices like breathing, meditation, all these type of things, it's preparing you to stay in the moment. And then it's also preparing you for situations that will come in other moments. Because there's one moment, but there's multitudes of perspectives in each moment. And we don't know what's coming around the corner, so to speak. So the more we practice these things off the field, so to speak, when we're on the field, you have to wipe your memory of any practice you did and stop trying to anticipate what the opponent, and the opponent is the outside world in this situation. And just when it comes along, like, oh, And then all of a sudden, like some of the greatest plays ever, like, you know, Michael Jordan did this one famous dunk where he came, if I get it wrong, but he has the ball in the right hand, and some guy came into the middle of the key. He switched hands, and he literally in midair like went around the guy.
Crazy.
And then dunked with his left hand. He's never practiced that ever prior to that. Mm-hmm. Now, the next day, every kid in the playground was trying it out.
Right.
But think about that. It happened on the court. Never before did he ever do that. It happened in the moment because he wasn't thinking. He was responding to this person jumping in front of him. And it wasn't like, oh, okay, that guy jumped in front of me. That's why I didn't get the shot. He's like, no, this ain't happening today. He got into the zone, and his body, like when you look at his body, it kind of like weirdly moved around the guy. He switched hands. His energy went this way, and he literally came in with the left hand over the guy. And it, like even the guy was like, what the? Like,
holy shit.
Holy shit. He never practiced that before. He stayed in the moment. So life is about staying in the present moment, regardless of what happens. Yeah, if a pretty girl comes up and says hi to you, or, you know, a handsome guy comes up to a girl and says hi to you, like, that's easy stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, like, you know,
hard shit.
Your brakes go down and you're going down a hill.
That's going to be an intense ass one.
Well, you got to stop breathing.
Yeah, right.
Breathe in.
Take some deep ass breaths for that one.
Yeah.
But I get totally what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And that's, I kind of like too, that I want to mention is the more you begin to practice or implement this in a situation where you don't need it, the easier it is, and the more awareness you have when you do need it.
And then when you do need it, and when it happens, you know, we don't know, like, okay, I got in the ring and I got punched. Okay, I'm like, okay, how can I respond to that better? Like, okay, I'm going to move a little bit better. I'm going to learn to bob and weave more, right? Mm-hmm. So you start to work on stuff. So every failure is a success in leading you to a higher level or whatever. But for a lot of people, that failure keeps them from, like, you know what? I'm done boxing. I'm done running a business. I'm like, really? I'm like, you quit this early in the game? Mm-hmm. You can't, by the way, because it's going to aggravate you. That's the hell you live in. Mm-hmm. The hell you live in is you came here to do something, right? You signed a contract, so to speak, as a soul, and your contract is to get from here to here doing this specific thing or multiple specific things. It doesn't matter. Multiple things, not specific things. But and you quit, like, good luck. That's going to keep rising up and rising up and rising up. You don't want to, like, just go through it. You know, if you fall forward. And then when you fall forward, all of a sudden you're like, okay, what made me fall? I was out of balance. Why was I out of balance? Because I didn't check my balance that morning. So my autoimmune system, my nervous system, everything was a little out of whack. My energy was off. If I can do something every day to keep my energy in check. In other words, if I fill up my tank every day in my car, regardless if I had a quarter tank or almost empty, if I fill it up every day, I'll be prepared for the day in which I wake up in the morning and need it full. Mm-hmm. And you do this work, I guarantee it. Not it may. I guarantee it. Life will be a lot easier, and then life becomes really fun when these things that you thought was stressful before actually become your greatest moments in the day. I'm like, you're not gonna believe what happened. This person came in and, you know, they put a gun to my head, you know, or my brakes went out and I was going down the mountain, you know, and all of a sudden now you're telling the story because you're obviously here, and, you know, it's like, wow. I'm like, yeah. It's,
how interesting can this get?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's so exciting about this world is there are so many infinite number of ways a situation can work out that we could never even fathom.
No.
But we're allowing ourselves to get choked up or cornered or worried or upset because the way I thought it was going to happen didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's our problem. That's what I've realized too. Like, especially with like work and my business, when something doesn't go my way now, I don't go, oh my God, you know, I'm not going to be able to achieve my goal, or, you know, this is the end of it, or whatever that may be, or just get into a, you know, an upset situation. I go, thank God that happened. It was supposed to. I don't know why. I don't know how, but thank God. And I mean it too. I mean it.
That's a brilliant point, because that's what I want to talk about too. Like, obviously anyone that's elevating to higher levels. So that was one of the questions that Molly asked me. Like, why do I keep going to this state? I'm like, well, you don't keep going into this state. And what I mean, or this season, he called it. And I'm like, okay, yesterday was August 29th.
September. Today's the 30th. So
right,
yeah.
So say let's take today. Today's September 30th.
Tomorrow's the 1st.
Yeah. So if I go a year ago to September 30th and we look at the temperature, it's different.
Yep.
All right. Was the wind blowing? So I can't compare last year, even though it's a season within the same. September 30th. Today's September 30th, but now it's 24. Yet last year was 23, which represented the same season, but represented a different viewpoint of that season. If I take last year's September 30th and compare it to this year, that's where my problem is. So all of a sudden, I'm like, no, the higher level you go, the more things are going to come at you. Just like if I'm walking up a mountain, the oxygen level starts to thin out. My body has to acclimate. So if I don't understand the acclimation process, I think there's something wrong with me, and I want to run back down the hill. Like, no, like you just need to, if you start, there's a hack into breathing. You're breathing deeper as you go up there, maybe sit still, take a couple deep breaths, and all of a sudden your body gets acclimated quicker than automatically would. Mm-hmm. Or you could sit there on a log and wait till your body acclimates. There's no right or wrong way. But if you're trying to continuously soar in business and your physiology and your relationships.
Spiritually.
Yeah, like if you get deeper into relationship, shit's going to come up that was never been there. Like, right? So what happens is people just go back. I'm like, I'm familiar with this. I'm going to stay here. I'm like, okay, let me.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Because you'll do that for a couple of years and 3 years, 4 years, 20 years goes by in your relationship and you wonder why you come home and your wife is gone. Mm-hmm. Because you maintain the same status of opportunity, whatever you were doing. I'm like, no, you got to keep growing. This is why we're here. So in every lift up, there's a different environment that you have to get acclimated to. But when I actually notice the oxygen is less, I'm like, God, I'm getting closer to the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. So I get excited about that, and I know how to augment it. I know how to hack into my system to get a better volume of oxygen.
It's no longer scary. It's no longer overwhelming. It's, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I know what you're saying, because this is when I start to feel this pendulum swinging. I'm like, the pendulum swinging. This is great. It means I'm getting to the top of that, valley or whatever.
It's perfect. So like, I've never climbed Mount Everest. I know most people that will do. I don't know if most, but I think most, if they do, they go up there, and one of the things they carry with them is oxygen, right? Okay, because the air is really thin up there. Well, Wim Hof climbed Mount Everest, not only just in shorts with no shirt on. He had no oxygen. Why? Because he set himself at base camp. He oxygenated his body through certain breath work, which enabled him to go into this place where most people can't go, wearing goggles and vortex gloves and heaters in their stuff and oxygen tanks around him.
He just said, like, shorts.
Let's go.
That's what happened. He was in shirt and shorts.
Because he prepared himself prior to going, understand what's going to happen. So, yeah, when he got up to these higher levels, you probably bet you're sure he's probably going, deep in, getting oxygen filled in his lungs. Because oxygen is all around us, but we're at sea level, or we're like, at 200 feet off, above sea level, the oxygen level is going to be different. But the body can take whatever oxygen. If you just take in more, it will actually start to work. And then it will start regulating your systems and everything else. So it's understanding these systems, how they work, will keep you from getting aggravated, keep you from getting upset, keep the body in a homeostasis, all these things. It isn't the outside world. It isn't the perfect weather, the right amount of money. Like those are exciting. They can amplify, but
those will come, those will go.
But they go. They go. They absolutely go. If your oxygen goes, you won't know what's going on.
Or
you won't know what's going on because you need it.
It becomes like there's more to it now.
Yes.
And you get into this comfortable state. Like for example, the money doesn't have to go, but that same amount of money that you looked at before and were all in about, it's like I know more comes. I know there's more to this level of abundance. I know it's not tied to this money. Money is a tool that allows me to help others. It allows me to expand. It allows me to create more. It allows me to give back more. And you start to look at things from a totally different perspective. And that perspective is I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, how much further can I go? It does. So it's not a sense of greed is one day it's going to run out. So I better take all my money and store it. Mm-hmm. Where a lot of successful people I come across, it's not about the money anymore, but the money is the expression of what's happening. Mm-hmm. So it's about how far can I go? I'm like, I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out. And by maintaining the ability for the body to be, because everyone knows it's like if you're sick and you don't have vitality, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's going to slowly dissipate and disappear, or you'll disappear and the money goes to somebody else, right? Because money is a representation of energy. Mm-hmm. So really what is we want vitality, and sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, when you put yourself out on that limb and if you get to an edge of a cliff and it's like, like say the Grand Canyon, and you really stand on the edge of a cliff where you really, really, really have to be present or else you fall off. There's nothing more alive than that. Now, I'm not saying you have to put yourself in what we call physical danger to stay alive. You don't. But keeping that maintaining process of the present moment is what really being alive is all about, and doing it through the breath work. Like when I have to focus on breathing, okay, let's see. Like me and Mike did a pretty extenuating, exerting breath work tank, and like you come out of it like, wow, that was freaking cool. It was kind of like a psychedelic trip before we came on the podcast. We don't always do that, but today was like really deep breathing, and then we went into a meditation, which made my meditation go even to a different place that I haven't been before. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wasn't comparing it to the breath work I did this morning before I saw Mike, or the one I did yesterday, because that would be fruitless. It'd be ridiculous.
It's funny. I did a breath work before I came too.
Yeah. So I probably wake up and just do it so I can get ready with Karen ask me questions.
I know what you're saying though. It's like it's that perfect way to start the day, and then it just becomes a part of this routine, guys. And you do something long enough, you create enough good habits, and you're like, holy shit. I remember like 6 years ago, when we first started talking about these concepts, Frank, one of the biggest things that you helped me see is like, it's not the size of what you're doing. It's more like it's not like like you don't need to do anything major. It's more small little things that add up.
Yeah.
Are you getting up enough? Are we getting enough sleep? What type of food are we eating? Are we drinking? What are our habits? And we've heard this, from countless books and individuals and speakers and successful individuals. Nobody gets up there and says, I woke up every day telling myself, I'm horrible, looking myself in the mirror saying I'm the biggest piece of shit, and all of a sudden I had these biggest breakthroughs and my life was great. It doesn't work that way, and it's because what we've been taught, is not us. It's an instrument. It's a body. It's a tool. And you have to become the observer of this tool. And when you can detach from this identity that you have created, which a lot of people call the ego, that's when life really starts to happen. And you don't kill the ego, there's a lot of misinformation, especially in the new age spiritual community about getting rid of this ego. If you get rid of the ego, you can't have an experience. The ego is the identity. It's seeing the ego for what it is.
Yeah, ego's a costume you wear to the costume party.
Exactly.
But you realize...
How do you go to the party if you don't have a costume?
Yeah, and if you're wearing a costume, you want to acquiesce with the character you're playing. But when you go home, you realize, and even prior to going in, this is not really but I'm playing this game, and I love playing the game, but there's a part of me that knows, like, okay, this costume getting a little itchy. I need to take it off. Let's get out of here.
Totally.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. Yeah. I probably should say this because of my client list, too. But whenever we go to parties, Karen, it's like okay to party. And it's nothing against the people that we go to the party with. She likes hanging with people, but she likes to get to bed at a certain time.
Totally.
Right? And I really admire her for that. Mm-hmm. So we go to this party, and it was a themed party in the 1920s. And we're in costume. We go to it. And she's like, hey, what time does it start? 6 o'clock. It's like, good. Okay. We get there fashionably late, like 6:15.
Yep.
And we go in there. And there was probably like 50 people. Or
that's a big party.
Yeah. So it was cool. So prior to going there, Karen's like, so... She's like, so when are we leaving? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, we got to play it by ear. She's like, we have to have a
game plan.
like, no,
a word?
A code word.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's a good idea.
She's like, so we're trying to come up with a code word. And she goes, she's like, let's do the Charleston. And I look at her, I'm like, no, if we do that, people are going to want us to do the Charleston for them. Then we're stuck there for another 20 minutes doing the Charleston. So then she goes, how about boop, boop, ba-doo? I'm like, okay, boop, 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 ba-doo. I'm like, it's fine. So now it's set up like a casino night. So we're playing blackjack. And all of a sudden she goes, bum, bum, bum. And I'm like, what?
That's
it's like, no, she goes, bum, bum, bum. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you doing? Bum, bum. I'm like, you mean boop, boop, be-doo? It's like, she even got the word wrong.
She even messed it up.
Like, why are you going bum, bum, bum?
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
I started laughing. And I'm like, yeah, it's my last hand, buddy, because the boop, boop, be-doo came out.
Got the announcement.
But Karen can exit a party like nobody else.
Love it.
Like, she's
it's
somebody.
A skill.
She can hire people. I'm like, you ever need to get at a party? Hire my wife.
Hell yeah.
Because she's so kind, gets people like, hey, why are you going? Like, oh, and then she's, doing all, and she really means it, but she can exit. When I exit party, it's the most awkward thing that ever happens. Like, I'm all like, what? Like, yeah, hey, I gotta go because we drove together.
Gotta leave.
Gotta leave. And she's like, and it was one of my friends, and she's like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, that should be if you ever go to a party and want to get out, my wife, well, she doesn't know it, but
she'll be the best person to contact.
Yeah, you hire her. It sounds like a Seinfeld episode where you hire this person to get out of a party. But anyway, where the hell did I go with this?
It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, the costume.
Yeah.
I got sidetracked, but But yeah, so what Mike's talking about, and this is kind of
we all wear the costume.
Yeah, we all, because there is something in us.
You just want to be aware of it.
Yeah, and there's something in us observing this world that we're living in, and that thing doesn't care if it's hot or cold out. My body cares if it's 72 degrees or 130 degrees. All right. So, but my observer is aware of that, so it acquiesces. It takes care of the body. But ultimately, if my body dies, because it, when I was 18 years old, that's no longer here. But the thing that's observing the moment now, sitting in front of the mics with Mike, doing this podcast, it was still the same observer that observed me when I was in high school. That never changes. But the observer is also aware of the more I keep this body at this homeostasis place, this nice, parasympathetic state, all this relaxed state, it knows it has a better experience. Or the experience is richer, I should say.
You feel more
I shouldn't say better, it's richer. Mm-hmm. And so so Mike and I, so then the concepts that we talk about, sometimes people are like, I don't understand them. Like, well, it's not that you don't understand them. You're not the level. It's like you can't see the skyline of a city unless you're at the top of the building. In the basement, you can't see it. So what was showing us, I've been working on it, still working on it. How do I keep elevating to these higher levels? And when you're doing that, a new fear of heights comes up, but no big deal. I get over the old one. And all of a sudden you start to realize, wow, you look back, and what Mike talked about doing in increments, because if you're climbing Mount Everest, say, your stride does not change. Your gait doesn't change. And whether you're a short person or a tall person, you still have the capacity to get to the top of Mount Everest. Same gait the whole way up. The thing that never changes is you don't stop. You just keep going. Take a break here, no big deal. Just keep walking. And when you keep walking with your head down, so to speak, all of a sudden you'll find yourself at that place. And when you get there, like, oh, cool. Now what? Let's do something else. And then the expansion keeps going and keeps going. It never ends. And
I see this too, like in my work life and career and whatnot. I'll be in situations that start just getting holy shit, it's so overwhelming, and it's it's stressful, and I start to breathe through it, and I don't know how it's going to work out, but I keep going, and it works out.
Yeah, it does.
And in a way where I could, and now, because I have years of doing this, when I get into these situations that I feel like I got 100-pound weight on my chest, and I'm like, I don't know what the plan is here, I don't allow it to freak me out. I kind of recognize it now, and I say to myself, okay, I'm going to keep going. And I remind myself that I don't need to know how it's going to work out. I just need to know that it is going to work out. And that is comforting enough to allow yourself to continue. And it's, you know, and some people, you know, will call that, you know, like religious people will say, oh, that's God, you know, I'm turning it over to God. And that's great. That's why I support, you know, anybody who's using religion in that aspect of their life. But what it really is it's coming from within. It's a place of knowing that it's going to work out despite what I'm experiencing, despite this situation that, you know, we're having. In what am I doing? I'm really calming myself. You know, I'm self-soothing. I'm bringing the breath back to a, you know, rested heart rate. Yeah,
and everyone's out here has probably heard this statement: God doesn't give you what you can't handle.
Yep.
Now, the difference of people that couldn't handle it, it's not that they couldn't handle it; they chose not to.
Yeah,
my friend could have chose to run away and left me hanging in a tree for somebody else to come and save me, but he chose to get up there and not know what he was doing, and did it. You know, tried at least.
Yeah, he had no idea what the hell he was doing,
and it happened. So when I set out my day, I don't have a plan. I have a state I am in, and then the plan will show up exactly when I need the plan. Not a moment too late, not a moment too soon. Everything shows up exactly in the moment at which I need it, not before, not after. That's really how life works. But if I carry a plan with me, you know, if I was expecting the guy to throw a jab and he threw a right hand, well, there goes my plan. And now I'm like, why did he usually throws a jab? You know, that doesn't help me in life. That's when we come the complainer or the victim.
See, and this is where it gets kind of hard with the way we're taught, at least in like Western culture and stuff, because like we're taught, you know, we go to school, you got to have a plan, you know, you need to know this in order to do well on something. And it's always this pull away from, hey, everything's just fine, I'll know it when I need to know it, and I just kind of keep moving forward. The information will be, you know, readily available to me in my psyche, my consciousness, you know, etc., when I need it. We're taught the opposite of that our whole lives, and this isn't a topic for this episode. I believe that's by design, but whatever, you know. But we're literally taught not to trust ourselves our whole life. This is why kids are, you know, they're 17, 18, getting into high school or getting out, but just about to get out of high school, and they're like, I have no idea what I want to do. And why the hell would you? You know, for the last 18 years of your life, you've been told what is right, what is wrong, how to do something, you know, how not to do something. Do you have a plan? You know, if you don't have a plan, you're absolutely screwed, you know, when in reality, no, I get up each day knowing, you know, I don't need to know how, I just need to know that it's going to work out.
Yeah, and so if you do have, like, if you need a plan, which, think about this, the plan should just be, how do I maintain the state that I'm in regardless of what happens? So my plan isn't, if this happens, I'll do this, or I'm going to do this regardless. My plan is, I'm going to get into that state, and if I find myself out of that state, I get myself into that state. And if I keep getting in and out of it all day long, so be it. Doesn't matter. I'm going to keep getting back into that state, no matter what it takes. And over time, the physiology of the body, in other words, you know, how many times did someone have to throw a jab at me before I moved, right? And then if they throw a jab in the right hand, I learned to move this way. Over time, it's like, yeah, you know, it was a lot difficult to punch me. Not impossible, but very difficult to punch me after a while. So that became part of my nervous system. And when I get into the ring, I wasn't scared of getting hit, because most of the time the hits weren't even hard because I was moving with them, right? And if I did hit hard, I realized, oh shit, I wasn't conscious. So all these things that happen in life take you to higher levels of your skill set. And that's why you see, when really, say, take a really good skill set of boxers, they don't even bleed. When you see an outweighed fight, a guy has a eye like this because he couldn't get out of the way, that one fighter was over-skilled the other fighter. That's what happens. Or the person lost their nerve and fell down and completely lost their state. They fell out of their state. It's kind of like what happens, you know. But that's the game. But when you see a really skilled fight, yes, somebody will win the fight based on points or how they do it. But they all, like, yeah, the higher level they get, the less beat up they look. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that look beat up, they're like the the guys that never make to a higher level, you know?
But you can easily look at that and relate it to, you know, daily life, you know,
Yes.
and getting caught up in the mind and all that, and how it brings us, punches us, you know, keeps us down. And, you know, a lot of us feel that, like, holy shit, I've just got, you know, my ass handed to me today.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And so today we have 2 videos, and it's funny. These are going to seem like 2 completely opposite men, but the message
I
they're
love
saying
this.
is absolutely the same. It's just delivered through a different perspective. And I admire both of these people. The first one is by Jocko Willings.
Yeah.
And it's
Tell me a little bit more about Jocko, because I don't know Jocko.
He's a Navy SEAL. You know, he has
I've seen him before.
Yeah, he has his own podcast. I saw him the first time I had seen him was on Joe Rogan. I just admire his girth in life. But he has this speech called the Good Speech or the Good Talk, and I'm going to show that right now.
Good.
And yeah,
This will be a fun clip.
Yeah, it'll be a fun clip.
Epic.
Yeah,
Dude, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, it was.
I got
The
goosebumps. The music made it even better.
And I like how he said. Like I like how he said, if you're still breathing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so, like, actually, when you say the word "good" or "I got this," it really does trigger something in your nervous system. And notice how you're breathing. So you can go back to the breath. That's how you recalibrate. You take a knee, so to speak, like in boxing. If you're if you're really battered and beat up, you actually have the ability to take a knee, 8 count. Like you lose the round, but who cares? You're going to survive the rest of the fight. Mm-hmm. But if you take that knee, you better take that knee for a reason. You better breathe. You better like say, okay, I'm coming back. I'm going to like taking this knee. I'm like, I better tell my head I'm going to win. Not that I need a break. I'm taking a knee to, it's like how the football team goes into halftime. They turn the game around. Mm-hmm. So if you take a knee, you better be turning the game around. You're just wasting your time. And when you start to breathe deep, and that's we learned that when I was a kid, just like you'd breathe in deep, and then you let it out, and it all of a sudden you start your heart rate you start to calm down. Mm-hmm. So whenever I was in the corner, if you ever watch fighters, they're in the corner, they're breathing in, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden the vagus nerve calms down, mm-hmm. and it's like, okay, now I'm ready for the next round, you know. But if you don't work on that, and you re-engage, you get in trouble.
This good video that was shared just by Jocko was it's truly profound.
Yeah.
Because if we were all to look at situations like that, I promise you, on every single level, you will see a breakthrough after breakthrough, abundance beyond what you could ever fathom, and a sense of self-worth and just true, like, I want to say strength, but it's beyond strength. It's like this knowing that you are a co-creator with this experience.
Yeah.
Because no matter what is happening, it is all good.
Yeah.
And when you can take a perspective like that, that's how you grow, you know. And guys, this is from all. There is not one situation where you cannot apply this good mentality. Yeah. You know, I don't care how rough it is, what's going on, etc. When you begin to flip the script, like Jocko explained here, and your answer, your mental,
I'm screwed.
Yeah, your mental like bar is set at good. Holy shit! Watch what happens next.
Yeah.
Like, just hearing, like, dude, that pumped me up.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to use that this week and next week, and you know, just kind of start to throw that into, you know, my mental jargon, if you will, because that is so powerful.
Yeah, it's like when my wife says, "Hey Frank, take out the garbage." I'm like, good.
You got this epic music playing in your ears, and you're just like, good.
And she's like, "Are you gonna take the garbage out?" I'm like, good.
Good.
That's all I do. I sit on the couch. Good.
Dude, that's so fucking funny. Oh my god, that made me laugh. I'm like crying.
He's like, "We'll take the garbage out."
Epic
like,
situation,
good.
and it's the garbage. Dude, that was so funny. Oh god. But yes, you can even apply it to situations such as that. You know. But truly, man, like, I can't wait to implement that, because it is such a great reminder of it. Great. what next? You know, where do I pivot? I've been stretched thin before. I can be stretched thinner, you know, and it's a relentless knowing of I've got this.
And taking the word from a guy like Jocko, who's been through a lot in the physical realm. Yeah, so he's not like this.
Did you say he was a SEAL?
Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, so they have seen shit we don't even, you know,
that you
couldn't
can't
even fathom.
Yeah. So for him to be able to say good, I'm like, this works, you know, and you don't necessarily need to become a Navy SEAL, put yourself in situations he put himself in to actually amplify yourself up to that. But if he can say it.
Well, and let's also touch on this just for those listening. When you respond to any situation like that with that level of knowing and good, you've created now a ton of opportunities. Whereas when something doesn't go your way and, oh shit, you know, I'm trying to, you know, scramble to hold this together, you're collapsing all the potential realities out there of this turning into a preferential or a good situation or driving in the right direction. But when you say a phrase like good, no matter what's happening, you've opened up now a ton of different opportunities and potentials.
Oh, beyond it, because the thing about this, who do you want to be attracted to? The person that's like good or the person that was screwed?
Oh, we all know that we're naturally attracted to that.
In a relationship or a business or what have you.
No one can deny that.
It's the people that can solve the problem. Like, okay, not a big deal. Like, what do you mean it's not a big deal? I'm like, don't worry. And they show you how to get through it. And like, oh my God. Yeah. Like now you're standing on the shoulders of giants, and you want to be that giant that people are standing on by saying, I got this.
And I love when he was saying,
even though you don't know, like, because
you don't have to know. That's the thing, and I've realized it though, and that's the truth. No. You don't have to know, and then shit just starts to kind of open up and unfold, and you're like, oh fuck, this is great. Yeah. But you don't have to know. I know this because I've done it, you know, year after year now, and it's true. You don't have to know. And I love how this Jocko dude is talking about, you know, one of his direct reports or whatever, saying, yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Damn well you know what I'm going to say, and I hope you're saying the same thing to yourself. Yeah, just everything about that clip was awesome.
Yeah, because what he was referring to or inferring was the guy saying, I know what you're going to say, and Jock was pretty much saying, well, why don't you just say it's good? Because that's what it is. I'm teaching you to say it to yourself. Because like, I know what you're going to say, but I want you here to say something different, like we're screwed. Like, he's like, no, I'm not going to say that. Never. I'm never going to say that.
That's not an option.
It's not in my vocabulary.
Yeah. And when something is not an option, you've just created a ton of an infinite amount of options to make this situation work, be beneficial, be healing, be you know, good for you, be abundant, like. Wow. Yeah. That was a great clip, Frank.
Yeah. All right. Now we have a clip from Michael Singer, who's pretty much talking about the same thing, but in a different perspective.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. I equally love these men.
Let's do it.
What surrender is, as we've discussed it, is you are in a predicament. It's called reality. Right now, where almost all of us are, I'm leaving the masters out, is we are conscious and we are aware of what is unfolding in front of us. The world is coming in, we're experiencing it. The mind is reacting to the world that's coming in because we stored reactive triggers inside ourselves due to our past experiences. The heart is reacting to the reaction of the mind. Or we have stored so much within our heart that it's leaking. It just comes up with stuff all by itself. It doesn't need the outside world to come in and stimulate. This is reality. This is what's going on. So you are in there overwhelmed at all times by this experience of releasing energies inside of you that most people know absolutely nothing about. And it's like a drowning person. I'm drowning. Well, while I'm drowning, I'm not very nice. While I'm drowning, I scream a little bit. While I'm drowning, I yell at people, help me, help me. I do all kinds of things while I'm drowning. If somebody swims to help me, I'll grab them. They may drown too. I'm not in charge of my actions. I'm not a rational human being. I'm not centered. I'm not clear. I'm drowning. And we are drowning inside. So what do you do when you're drowning? You try to grab something solid. That's what you do. You try to grab a floating board passing by. You try to grab anything you can in order to not sink. That is how almost everybody is living their lives. What are we grabbing? You're trying to grab onto form outside. If people will respect me and talk nicely to me, I won't be as caustic in here. If she'll love me instead of loving him and pay attention to me and say nice things to me and marry me, not to mention marry me, like take vows and tell me she'll always be true to me. And so that's pretty solid, right? Excuse me. And you grab a hold of that and you hold on to it and you try to not drown until he or she goes out and does something that doesn't reinforce that. And then you drown, right? If you want to see how much you're clinging and holding on by trying to try to create a solidity inside via the outside world, see what happens when it's not the way you want. I mean, it's like trying to even ask it. What happens when somebody does something who's very close to you, who you have depended on and are clinging to, if you will, all right? What happens when they do something that does not reinforce your ability to cling? They say something or act something, you think they say something, somebody tells you they acted something, or you think maybe someday they will. Even that, even if they've done nothing. And your mind thinks, well, what if they do? Sally's husband left her. What if Sal leaves me? That's all it takes, isn't it? And what do you feel? Pain. You feel pain. You feel disturbance. You feel destruction. All these energies shift inside. That's right. Because what you have been doing is trying to build a place of solidity within your mind that you can hold on to. And as long as everything reinforces that, at least reasonably, you feel you're safe. You have distanced yourself from the core of the energies that you've stored inside by clinging to something else. That's how we live. That's what we do. And it doesn't work. So the first step that we discussed is, not the first and last, is if you want to grow spiritually, if you want to have a nice life, if you don't want to feel you're always struggling with life, if you don't want to dread waking up in the morning, if you don't want a midlife crisis. What's a midlife crisis? I've been building and doing and clinging and fighting and doing half my life because I want to be okay, and I'm not. I'm not. I got the kids, I got the marriage, I got the job, I got perfectly reasonable to have a midlife crisis. I'm surprised everybody doesn't have them. You understand that? Because you've gone halfway through this thing and you realize I didn't get anything. I'm the same as I was when I started. I'm not okay. I'm okay as long as she behaves. I'm okay as long as the kids get A's. I'm okay as long as this happens. I'm okay as long as the finances hold up. I'm conditionally okay, and I know it. And therefore I have to struggle to get it and keep it. And that's why life is a struggle. And we've talked about that. So we talked about what's the alternative. And that's what we're going to talk about in this session, strongly, deeply. What is the alternative? The alternative is to clean up the mess. You are drowning. Listen to me. There's an analogy I use, all right? You have been drowning. You're screaming. You're helping. The water's in your nose. The water's in your mouth. You're choking. Everything. Oh my God, you're drowning. And I'm standing there watching you. The water is 6 inches thick. You are laying deep, 6 inches deep. You are laying down, face down, nose in it, thrashing around. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. So all the water is splashing up into your face. That's all that's happening. There's no drowning. There's no reason to drown. You are causing yourself the entire problem that you are having. There is no problem. You are sitting on a planet spinning around the middle of absolutely nowheres. Do you understand that? Come on. Pay attention to what NASA's showing you. We've taken pictures. I keep it as my screen saver, right? There's a picture they took of the planet Earth from 2 million miles out. Cassini turned around. It's about this big in the middle of dark space. You know what it looks like? It looks like what Mars looks like to you, right? It's just a planet spinning in the middle of nowheres. How can you tell me you can't drop down into the nicest planet there is? We haven't found anything even close in the whole galaxies or universe, right? We've looked pretty far back with the Hubble. Nothing. We're all excited if we find a planet that might have water. Water falls out of the sky for you. It's all over the place. You go to Mars, there's rovers crawling over Mars. Let's see how long you can watch them and be interested. There's nothing going on. It's just a bunch of dirt. Look at your planet. So you won the lottery. You drop down into this phenomenal planet that's always exciting and challenging and growthful and colorful and shapes and sounds and unbelievable. And what do? You suffer. Why? It's not the planet. It's not that. It's the fact that you have this stuff stored inside of you. That's how I put it. Different people have hobbies of collecting different things. Some collect spoons from all over the world, teacups, stamps, coins. You collect bad experiences. And that's the truth. That's what you made your hobby. I'm going to collect every bad experience I ever had and keep it inside of me on display so that it can continue bothering me. All right? That's the only problem. That's the problem. If you keep doing that, you're going to collect more and more experiences throughout your life, and it will get heavier and heavier and harder and harder. So the answer is the willingness to let go of this stuff that you have built up inside of you. Then you will not be drowning. It's not a matter of what do I do because I'm drowning. You won't be drowning.
There we go. Talking about the aura, so the energy field.
That was a great clip.
Yeah. So you can see how the difference between Jocko and Michael Singer, but yet the information, it's the same. If you look at it, if you actually read really into it. And so when you have all this blockage in there, it comes out in a certain response in the body, like the heart, and you talked about that. When you actually start to breathe and do different types of breath work, you can actually mitigate and eradicate these issues in your body. So when a thought pops up, it's as if you have no defining. If someone said, "Hey, Zimba is going to happen," like I don't even know what Zimba is, you wouldn't have a response to it.
Exactly.
So you can actually wipe this out by doing this particular modality of different type of breath work.
I thought it was fascinating too how Michael Singer there, really visually painted what's going on. We all know we have these, 7 major energy centers. There's more energy centers, etc. We're aware of that, but we've got 7 main ones, and we are just like an electric current. Exactly like electric current. Electricity is always flowing through us, right? And Michael Singer painted a perfect photo here of explaining we have this energy going through us, and it's hitting these different blockages within us and our, energy centers, and it's manifesting into different situations. This is why you'll hear people, talk about, you're repeating the same patterns with their partners. Or having the same issues come up, with family, it's because you're not changing any of the issues. Actually, you're not going in and actually working or doing the work. You're just repeating each situation. That's why it keeps coming up in a different form, in a different way, in a different situation with a different person. It's because that energy keeps getting stuck and it's just manifesting in a different way. And so I thought that was a great, visual description of what's actually going on with energy in our body.
Yeah, and I like how he brought up too, because a lot of times, even like we talk about outward circumstances, right? Also, he was talking about, say in the middle of the night where there's really no outward circumstances happening. Like you're sitting there worried about work, but you're not actually at work dealing with it. These get trapped in our psyche, and that's kind of what is another harmful thing, because people are still rerunning a program through their body where in reality it's not happening anymore. It happened when you were in grade school, or it happened 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But you're still running it, and then the nervous system doesn't know any different and picks up on that.
It thinks it's happening right now.
Yeah, so if something's happening right now, you have more of an understanding. But even then, we're trying to mitigate that issue of dealing with it, because you can deal with it. Like you said, the fact that you ended up on this planet, you already won the lottery. So trying to win the lottery to become happy, you already did. Mm-hmm. And even another, a male will ejaculate anywhere from 20 million to 200 million sperm. Mm-hmm. Just one of those of you. Mm-hmm. Think of it, you already won the lottery, but we don't look at it that way. I got a bad, I love hearing these stories. I got a rough life, Mm-hmm. And then I watched somebody that had what we deem to be a worse life, or maybe the same life, but they have a completely different attitude about it. Where the circumstances, it's how we look at it, how we feel about it. And when you're in the survival state, everything looks problematic. Everything does.
Everything's an issue.
Even if you get a leg up, what about tomorrow though? Mm-hmm. I have a sandwich now. I'm not hungry now. Today. Yeah, I'm not. But tomorrow, where's my next meal going to come? And it's wow. I'm because you're thinking that the sandwich came because somebody gave it to you, but what all these things run into the head, and the circumstance. You're not people worried about losing money, and they have money in their pocket. Mm-hmm. All right, and you can't mitigate that because you're not even there.
Yep.
Like it's like you're preempting something and you know even the other field and where it's going to happen. Exactly. That is even more damaging to the human psyche.
One other thing that Michael Singer mentioned here that I want to touch on too was how he talked about how we're all conditionally okay. That is like a great way to really explain what's going on. Like, because if you think about it, I'm conditionally okay. I got the house, so I have shelter, or I can afford to buy food. We're so conditionally okay, and it's like he brings up my kids are getting A's or this. We set all these conditions about what we deem as okay, and it's fascinating because it's our mind's way of holding us hostage.
Yeah, because the truth is we want to be unconditionally okay.
Yeah.
No conditions.
And when we can get there, that's when we start the breakthroughs.
Yeah, and when you actually are unconditionally okay, no condition can take you out of it.
No.
That's the caveat.
That's what we're shooting
for. The brilliance of that.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
If you're conditionally okay, when that condition alters or changes, you're no longer okay.
Fluctuates, in any way.
Yeah, because and that's how what's reality? It's the experience of the fluctuation of the world around us. The things that happen to us aren't real because they're constantly changing. How we feel about them, how we acquiesce with, that's the reality, the experience we have. But we don't really fully know why that's happening. But we know when we're out of sorts and we blame it on the condition. I'm like, good luck with that, because that condition is no longer here. You're still worried about the storm that hit 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. All right? And you're worried about another one comes. So you think worrying about this one's going to get prepared for the next one? Mm-hmm. No, it won't. But if you go into an unconditional state of happiness and joy, when conditions outside of us that are temporary come, you're like, yeah, no big deal. Got this. As Jocko says, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this was a great episode.
Yeah,
that Jocko, I don't know why that really lit me up.
Yeah,
it was great to hear that because it's just so easy to get really kind of consumed by it when you're going through it, I think, and just being like, oh, fuck, it's hard, or God, it's not my day. But when you reframe it as good, like, wow, you have now created so many more opportunities, and that was really eye-opening for me today. So I really, really enjoyed today's
it's profound. I think because a lot of times we listen to people more like Michael Singer and stuff like that, but Jocko has a different viewpoint on it. But yet it's the same. It's the same mindset, same mentality that we're talking. That's what spirituality is about. It's spirituality isn't about like getting to a place where nothing bothers you. It's about getting to a place where, or I shouldn't say, where circumstances are eliminated from your system, where I'm living on the top of a mountain and everything's beautiful and whatever. Spirituality is about getting to a place where nothing bothers you. Yeah. Everything is good. And from every good thing, you learn something to advance to the next thing. That's the one thing, the pattern I can see in life that's never changed.
Yeah.
So it's going to continue. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in this week, guys. We had a great time with you. We'll be back next week. If you like what you're hearing or you got anything you want to share with us just about as you're going through your experience, please reach out to us. Frank and I love reading your guys' emails. Our email is perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com. Perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
And remember, just keep on breathing. Do different types of breath works. Get your controlling your field of energy, and it'll be good.
Good.
We'll
see you guys next week.
All right. Peace out.